this computer. Let me share. Everything moves around, and you know they highlight the share in green as if it's going to make it stand out, but for some reason it doesn't.
Sim has a lot of opportunities to kind of improve some of that stuff.
Yeah. Alrighty. Let us get some width. Andy, I swear you, oh, this is the wrong one, that's why. Where's my mouse? I was gonna say, I swear you were gonna be out sometime this milestone, because I was looking at the wrong one. Whoa, what's happening? Have you all noticed some issues with GitLab today?
I know Git Pod was having some issues.
This is what's been happening to me.
Interesting.
I might not be able to share.
It seems to be working okay for me. So happy to share if you want.
I don't understand why. I've gotten this on 3 other issues too that I tried to open.
Seems like your computer's having some struggles today.
Yeah.
Restart eventually.
Yeah,
Turn it off, turn it back on.
Can one of you share?
Sure. All right. You guys able to see it all right?
Yes.
Cool. Just let me know how you want me to scroll, Justin, or when.
Well, the point of this meeting is just to make sure that everything is covered and everyone's aware. I think from our last meeting, we're in good shape. Unfortunately, the only person that might have had questions was Becca. And she's not here because she's going to be taking on stuff outside of Threaded. Let's see. Well, let's start at the top really quick. Let's look at everyone's points. Considering the note that I put in, do either of you have any questions about that? Thinking about reevaluating how you're weighting things and how accurate those weights have been over the last several milestones, and then reapplying that knowledge.
Yeah.
Thoughts around that?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I just basically decided to take on, based on your comment, just take on a little bit less this milestone in terms of points, because I've been finding myself kind of, scrambling at the end of the milestone to kind of wrap everything up and have stuff spill over. So trying to take on less total capacity, and hopefully that will help with that.
Okay. And hopefully that'll give you an opportunity to dig in a little bit more too.
Yeah, I would think so.
Cool.
Yep.
Less.
Yeah,
And
that's kind
Andy,
of the intent.
Sorry, I cut someone off.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
And Andy, I know that you were changing your mentality, I guess, when it comes to how you're going to use your points.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be not so much a 50-50 split, but I'm gonna be allocating a large chunk of my time towards collaborating with configure and monitor. So I don't know, 60-40, however that works out, but just turns out that all my points will be flex this milestone anyways. So yeah, so like 3 points a group, 3 to 4, 4 to 5 for those 2 groups.
And that takes into account that it looks like you're going to be out for basically a week.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, yeah, 3 work days. So it does. Okay. Because those are, as we work through this, you'll see where those points manifest in mostly just like collaboration as opposed to an actual issue I'm working on with those designers.
Cool. And then next thing we want to do is go through the list and make sure that all of the 100 needed issues are going to be covered, and then make sure that there aren't any concerns about any of these issues. So composition analysis. So do we know who put Becca on there? Did she do that or did we do that?
For which one? Number 1?
Those two 100, well, 3 and 4.
3 and
Number
4,
one,
she was
well,
already
number one's a
assigned.
nice to have, right? So it's like, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I'm a little
Yeah.
confused.
Number 1 was me. But then I put her in there and left a note in this issue about why, just because I'm not taking on the work in this group right now for this milestone.
Is there any work that needs to be done?
Yes.
Because the way
This
I would read
is-
this list right now is, yes, Becca's on there, but 3 and 4 have a higher priority in terms of need. So I would ignore 1 if it was me.
I know. I think
Is that accurate, or should we update the table?
it's 3 and 4 are probably these small needs to be addressed right now. Number 1 is like the big feature for Nicole's group, like the big thing that they need done. I think that it's not a 100 need right now because it still needs to be defined. So the need is to work with Nicole to define this, what the SBOM is and what the changes in UX enhancements entail. Because right now I believe those are empty or just lack UX definition.
Okay. So that could, I'm trying to, if I were Becca, how would I go about managing these for this milestone?
I would sync with Nicole on where the best place is to work on first item, SBOM, dependency list, build materials, UX enhancements, and try to figure out the UX like direction, if there's an issue needs to be created or which issue is best, and make sure that all the details are there so that you can begin work on it, as well as refine when this milestone greater than 15.0 is, because that could be 18.0 for all we know, right? Like it's just more than 15.0. General comment, I'm not a big fan of this 15.1 plus thing. I think we need to be more reserved and say, give us an actual milestone when this is needed, as opposed to plus, because these are going to continue to get bumped and never get done. And then things that aren't 100 needs will turn into those. And all of a sudden we have a list of 10 things that need to be done in one milestone. So that's just a side,
I would,
tangent.
The reason that there are basically 3 levels of prioritization on this table is so that should empower us to understand who has the highest priority across tables or across groups. If there's someone that says I have 100% need, it's a number 1 and it's 15.0, then any of these wouldn't get touched until those were done, in other words. That's how I would look at it. I understand what you're saying. It would be nice to have more finality. The plus, I would look at it, if it were me, I would just say 15.1. I would ignore the plus. I would pretend that it's 15.1. And then if anything else is 15.0, 100, and a higher priority, that's how I would do it. So if any of those do exist, then that's really what someone should be working on. Like Becca, for instance, if she has something that's a number 1, 100% 15.0, that takes priority over these. That's how I would do it. So ultimately, that's what we could be deciding right now as we go through this table. I do agree we should figure out what the mental model discrepancy is with this planning process and see if we can tighten it up. But you and I can talk about that a little bit on Friday.
Right on.
Okay. All right. Let's see what's going on with the next table, because the rest of those are fluffy. Container security. Yeah, so this is important. We will need someone to pick it up in 1410, but I thought you picked this up, right, Andy?
Done.
Wasn't this the, yeah. So
Design
that one's,
done. Yeah.
can you edit that and put a green check at the, on the 100?
Yeah.
Or even just remove it actually, because it's done. That's really what we should do.
You doing that, Andy, or do you want me to do it?
I got it.
Cool.
And the next one, the number 3, that says 15.2 and it's hard coded. There's no plus, it's 15.2. So I would say we probably don't need to worry about that one until 15.1 at least, and then we'll measure it against everyone else. So I think ultimately Sam's good. Does that all make sense? How I'm thinking of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Let's look at DAST. Okay, so Michael, you got a bunch of hundreds. Do we have any idea when they're expected to be ready by, or are we just going to go with 15.0? Like, do we know what Derek's thinking?
I think it's kind of a sliding scale right now for him. I think he's kind of flexible with some of this stuff. So the only one that's pre-flight validation is one of the big ones he wants to get in, but I think 15.0 is going to be like finalizing solution, looking at technical implementation or technical requirements, and then doing some solution validation around that. So I suspect it probably would be 15.1, 15.2 before it's actually ready to be built.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
that's the other thing too. We have to measure the content of the issue against those dates. So
mhm.
if you know it's a design issue, but you know it's going to need solution validation, you'll have to weigh how long that'll take within a milestone. You know, is it 2 weeks to design, 2 weeks to test, or is it 4 weeks to design, 2 weeks to test? Because that would bleed into the next milestone. So if his delivery date was 15.1, then you'd know that you have to make sure that the design and solution validation match into 1 or 2 milestones, you know?
Yep.
So there's a lot that we have to really consider when we're looking at these prioritizations. So it is helpful to know when he needs it.
Yeah, I agree. It would be helpful. So I can try to be going forward to get those dates out of him a little bit more directly.
Okay. So regarding these issues, do you have everything within them in order to move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, pretty much all of these are kind of spillovers from last milestone still. So like the DAS pre-flight validation design's already in progress and should hopefully be finalized, or the initial version of it should be put out this milestone, and I'm sure we'll go through some refinements and all of that.
Okay. The SAST is a duplicate.
Yep. And that's just doing the analysis of the problem validation research.
And then that last one's a nice to have. And then Becca's got 2 nice to haves for. So I thought that she was going to finish up something with either groups or filtering. But that's, well, that would be the design, exploration, filter, and search. Wonder why that's a nice to have.
I'm ready to build by 15.0.
Yeah.
It's not going to be built by 15.0.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because there's no engineers.
Yeah.
But a bunch of other teams were kicking around this, I thought, or was that for grouping? Like someone
Yes,
wanted it.
grouping, container scanning, and Nicole's group, SCA, would be benefited from grouping as well. So that may come out as part of the work that Nicole needs for the dependency list UX enhancements is grouping. So a grouping component or mechanism to group.
Okay, but that's not this. Because I also recall seeing that from a vulnerability management perspective, grouping wasn't the priority, but filtering and search was.
Yeah.
So it got a little convoluted where some folks care more about the search filter and some folks care more about grouping. So hopefully this means that the grouping is technically done and just needs to be sort of smoothed out when Nicole picks it up. But that's not here, so we're not going to talk about that. All right. Extras. So this milestone will be bleeding into Q2, which we don't have OKR set up yet. But our team will be responsible for carrying over the UX road mapping stuff into a new OKR, which is getting other teams to do roadmaps, which means we will be on the hook to help them set up their roadmaps. But we don't know what exactly that means yet, and I don't know what team that is yet. So that'll be the latter half of this milestone anyway. So just pointing that out. So for here, we're still going to be finishing up everyone else's roadmaps in the beginning of this milestone, right? That's how the quarter is going to end up. Do I got my date maths right?
15.0 starts in a week.
So it's April, and then May
Goes into the
is
middle of May.
Q2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
start of
first 2
Q2.
weeks, we'll be finishing our team's roadmap OKR, and then lead into the other team's OKR for the other half of the milestone.
At the least, it'll be configure monitor
For next one,
for the next ones in 15.
for Q2.
Yeah, for Q2.
Okay.
And then any remainders we had in secure that we didn't get to. Plus any other teams that want to jump on board.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be Hayana's team.
Yeah.
And hopefully that means all of her groups that she manages. But anyway, we can talk about that once it gets finalized. So for now, SAST still needs to check it off and say that it's done. Threat Insights, I saw you pinged Becca to see where she's at. Showcase.
We had the container scanning one. I don't think that made it onto this list. But plant.
Oh, right. That's you and I.
We have the SCA one.
Oh,
So
God, I always
Becca
get
had the
confused.
threat insights refinement one and the container scanning one. We can just figure it out.
What is that date? Because it might fall into. Nope, that's going to be 15 months. That's on the 18th. Yeah.
The day that 15.0 starts.
Can you put that on there just for tracking purposes? I would, but I can't get the page to load. All right. Any questions about any of this? Any concerns?
Nothing on my end.
Okay. And all the numbers add up? I did not add the numbers up for everyone. I assume you're paying attention to that. If you put down a capacity at the top, that you're matching that up with what you're saying you're taking on too. Okay.
Yeah, I believe mine should all line up.
All right, cool. And we're good. Is there anything else anyone wants to talk about or needs to talk about?
Time, not the moment.
Yeah, can't think of anything either.
Cool. Well then, thanks for coming and go 15-0. Wow, that actually rhymed. I was not expecting
Heck
that.
yeah.
Big change.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. See ya.
Talk to y'all later.